Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Tuesday, November 5th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the winners and losers for the Week 9 NFL season. In this segment, it is Rankings Tuesday. We turn our attention to the power rankings in the NFL. We have, of course, as always, our 32-17 coming up in this segment and 16-1 coming up after that. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday, November 5th. But like I was saying, in this segment, we turn our attention to the NFL Power Rankings. Ranks 32-17. Starting off at number 32, it is those New Orleans Saints, the biggest losers of the week. They are the second team to fire their head coach. Dennis Allen out, and like we talked about, their future is in trouble. This is a team that has absolutely no future. The Saints at the bottom of the league, they've lost now 7 straight, including a loss to the Carolina Panthers, the team that they beat most recently all the way back in week 2 when they were all the way up at 5. Egg on my face for that one. This was a Saints team that I was completely wrong on, and they are deep in the pit of awfulness in the NFL. The Saints are number 32, and they have a doozy of a way to climb back out of it. At 31, it's the Las Vegas Raiders, the other team that made some coaching moves. They fire offensive coordinator Luke Getsy after this offense just continues to be stuck in the mud. Gardner Minshew benched for Desmond Ridder, not a name that I expected to get any kind of starting job after last season in Atlanta, but he gets another chance. New coaches come in. This is not an easy fix for the Raiders. That everything about that team is really, really bad. But the Raiders at 31, they're not the worst team in the league, and that's all you can ask for right now for a Raiders team that's very broken. At 30, it's the Carolina Panthers. They make a couple of moves. Bryce Young looking better. There's some positives with this team. This is a team that's slowly on the rise. They're still not there. It's still a very bad unit, especially defensively. They have their issues, but this is a team where you can see a little bit of the light. Xavier Legette coming out there, making a couple of big plays, not a perfect game for him. That's not what you expect, but this is the Panthers team that I think in a couple of years could be competing for a division title if everything continues to go right. At 29, it's the New England Patriots. The Patriots escape or almost get a win there. Drake May played really, really good football, especially down the stretch to get them into overtime, making a couple of really good plays. I knew he throws an interception that ultimately ends the game, but that play from Drake May to send them to overtime, holding the ball for almost 12 whole seconds, scrambling around, breaking tackles, getting hit and lofting a ball into the end zone to hit a receiver that's open. That was one of the athletic plays that you see out of a quarterback. It's not like he's making a Lamar Jackson kind of play, but that is what you look for in a young quarterback, extending the play in a must-have-it situation and getting it done. That is the clutch gene right there, and the Patriots have a lot to look forward to as he continues to grow in this league. At 28 is the Tennessee Titans. They barely escape with a win against those New England Patriots. Mason Rudolph plays a fine game of football. This is an interesting situation in Tennessee. That defense is one that I certainly do believe in. They have a lot of talent over there, but they have a lot of other issues there. This is a team that is going to struggle to win games as long as the offense plays as poorly as it does, as consistently as it does. This is a bad Titans team, but they can beat up on the bad teams. So they're number 28. At 27, it's the Giants. Daniel Jones breaks his curse of almost 2 years, finally throws a touchdown pass at home to Chris Manhertz, finishes with 0 yards in the first half, but they almost came back against the Washington Commanders. He played a good game. Tyrone Tracy seems to be a good talent that they found. in the 5th round of this draft out of Purdue. This is the Giants team that has a lot of rookies playing some good ball. Theo Johnson caught a touchdown in this one, the rookie tight end. You have a lot of positives on this Giants team. That defense, again, playing really good football, especially against the pass. They're not a good team, but you can kind of see the vision just a little bit. You can kind of see the vision. The Giants at 27. At 26, it's the Colts. We just went on and on in our last segment about how the Colts are one of the biggest losers of the week. They completely botched the quarterback situation, and this is a team that has upside. You saw how good that defense played, forcing plenty of turnovers of Sam Darnold, a guy whose main calling card this season had been keeping the ball clean. They kept them in the game. They end up scoring a touchdown, a defensive touchdown in this one. That was a huge moment for them. The Colts are a team that need a lot of work, but they're not out of it yet. I don't know how they're going to fix this issue, but Joe Flacco should play better than that in most games. I don't know what their plan is in the future. It's not going to be an easy fix, though. They're down to 26. At 25, it's the Cowboys. Dak Prescott on IR with a hamstring injury. They didn't make any big moves at the deadline. CeeDee Lamb a little bit banged up, expected to play, though. This is a team that has just been maybe the most disappointing team in the entire NFL. CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott were supposed to come out there and dominate like they did last season. Whatever magical powers is gone. They don't have any semblance of a running game. Their defense, awful. Went from one of the better defensive units in all of football last year to one of the worst this season, and that is the biggest difference. They were supposed to run it back, build off the success. None of that is happening now. The Dallas Cowboys at number 25. At 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They showed you some good things. I know they just got humiliated by Saquon Barkley in that game, but I really did like some of the things, especially down the stretch from the Jags. The defense stepped up huge in that second half, really slowed down the Eagles, who kind of shot themselves in the foot, making a couple of bad coaching decisions. Nick Sirianni, obviously not the greatest decision maker, lots of risks, not a big fan of what he does over there. But the Jags, to their credit, were able to claw all the way back, make it a one-possession game before ultimately not coming through in the clutch. Brian Robinson continues to play really, really good football. This is a team that, if they just get a couple more breaks to go their way, and I know they got a lot in that game to keep it close, this is a team that I could see flipping a couple of games that they've played so far to wins. The Browns at 23. It's the Jameis Winston experience. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. Jameis Winston, 3 touchdowns in his first game, 3 interceptions in his second game. This is what you're going to get out of Jameis Winston. You don't know if it's going to be good Jameis or bad Jameis, and you just got to live with the results. The Cleveland Browns are a team that are just going to hang out around here. They're not really going to push too far. They're preparing for the future. They're going to try and deal with that Deshaun Watson contract. But Jameis Winston is a guy that'll provide excitement, but also will make his fair share of mistakes. And we got a bad Jameis Winston game. You're going to get a couple of those to go with the good. At 22, it's the Miami Dolphins. They've played really good football since Tua's come back. They've lost back-to-back weeks on walk-off field goal. This one stings. They probably should have sent this to overtime if not for a Jordan Poyer unnecessary roughness penalty. Ends up setting up the Bills with a 61-yard walk-off field goal for Tyler Bass, a kicker who struggled all season long. Tua let a game-tying drive in this one. They played good football. Again, this is a team that's just not catching any breaks, no matter what they do. Raheem Mostert's finally getting some touches. I think that's a much-needed adjustment from this offense. Getting a big power back like Raheem Mostert, who can also break a couple runs, like we saw last season, in the lineup to go to pair with Achane and that offensive passing attack. There's still some work that's needed to do. Tyreek Hill has not really been on the same page with Tua and that Dolphins offense really all season long. Don't really know what's going on there, but this is a Miami Dolphins team that is playing much better football ever since Tua came back. They belong at number 22. The Jets to 21. They get, like we've been saying every single week since they last won, it was a must win, and they won. They came up big against a Texans team that I thought they had no shot against. Garrett Wilson comes up huge. We finally get vintage Aaron Rodgers for the first time on Thursday night. The question is whether or not they can keep this up. The schedule for the Jets, relatively easy down the stretch here. There's not too many tough games. Their division, not as tough as we expected it to be. They still have, two games coming up, one game coming up against the Bills, but they get the Cardinals, the Colts, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Jags, the Rams, the Bills, and the Dolphins to close it. That is a schedule that you can go on a bit of a run on. I'm not fully bought back into the Jets, but this is a team that I was fully in on this offseason, and if they can continue to win a couple games, play like they did, especially in that second half of this one, I believe in this team to make those adjustments, especially with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. At 20, it's the Bears. They are the biggest droppers of the week. They are down 9 spots from number 11, and this team, I don't know what's going on off the field, but this is now 2 weeks in a row where we have big controversies surrounding some of their bigger players. Tyreek Stevenson, obviously, last week. This week, DJ Moore giving up on the middle of the play. That's not it. They could not block the Arizona Cardinals, a defense that could not get any pressure on anybody else all season long. Giving up 6 sacks to the Cardinals, that's an awful, awful look. They need to play better than that. They need to play with more energy, and the Bears, I don't know what's going on in Chicago right now, but it feels like they are on a free fall to the bottom, back to where they expected to be at the beginning of the season. At 19, it's the Bengals. Joe Burrow coming out, and he's playing like an MVP level guy. We'll talk about midseason awards tomorrow, but Joe Burrow coming out there threw for 5 touchdowns in this game against a bad Raiders team without T. Higgins. Joe, you had a team without a lot of contributions from Jamar Chase. This was a Joe Burrow moment, and he's keeping this team afloat. They're almost 500. They're not dead in the water yet, especially with the way that the AFC is kind of muddled in the middle. If they can make it to the playoffs the way that they started this season, they might be a team you don't want to go up against. At 18, it's the Broncos. Maybe I got a little high on this team. Maybe they're falling back down to earth. Bo Nix played a disgusting game against a really bad secondary. They only put up 10 points against the Ravens, a team that had let just about everybody else go wild through the air on them. Bo Nix couldn't get anything done. That Broncos defense gets absolutely torched against a really good offense. Didn't want to punish them too much for that, but this is a Broncos team that clearly has its issues. As good as they've been against the bad teams they play, whenever they play a real team like the Ravens, they come crashing back down to earth, and we all need to remember that until they beat a real team. Broncos at 18. And at 17, it's the Seahawks. They pushed the Rams to overtime. This was a must-win game for both of those teams. The Rams get out of there with the win, something that, again, both of these teams desperately, desperately needed. Seahawks have huge contributions from JSN. All 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith makes a couple of mistakes. They let the Rams come all the way back in this one, but it was still there were some things you really like out of the Seahawks in this one. Little worried about them. Again, kind of a litmus test for them, but they're here at 17. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we finish up our power rankings, ranked 16-1, coming up next after this break. Stick around on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.